At large. I'm finishing up my workday here in Claremont, California. I am a lawyer, and I am streaming tonight at 6:30. There's a gentleman outside of my window here smoking a cigarette, and it looks like it's kind of wafting into my office through some cracks, so it's kind of stinky in here. I don't think he knows that I'm right behind him. But anyway, tonight I am live streaming because I have a very big mandatory settlement conference tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. in the Orange County Superior Court, I will be at a mandatory settlement conference with my partner, Jim Moriarty. We represent over 100 children who were injured at the Children's Dental Group in Anaheim, California in 2016 from dirty, infected water due to the clinic using an inappropriate water filtration system produced by Culligan Water International to provide sterilized or you would say basically water that's appropriate for dental procedures. It's not appropriate for dental procedures. It needs to be water that is free of bacteria, not a reverse osmosis system that's for drinking water that is never checked and is building up a mycobacterium substance and then is being pumped through the dental chairs and being used in dental procedures on children. In addition to using a dirty water system, an inappropriate water system to do all the dental procedures, the dentists were also beasts. They called themselves, oh man, Dr. Abraham, she's a beast. Man, she's doing so many procedures. The dentists were being overseen by a non-dentist, Sam Gruenbaum, who's a lawyer who used to be the CEO of Western Dental. And he was in there telling the dentists, get the productivity up, get the production up. We need to sell this we need to get this clinic profitable. And ultimately his goal was to sell these clinics for a profit to private equity. That's what he does. You can look up his bio online. That's Sam Gruenbaum. So they're not using distilled water. They're not using water that's appropriate for dental procedures. They're doing excessive amounts of procedures on young children. For example, my client, Majid Odeh, 2-year-old boy who was strapped in a papoose board, given anesthesia, and they worked on all 4 quadrants of his mouth outside the presence of his parents, gave him a mycobacterium that infected his jaw, his teeth, his lymph nodes, his lungs. They removed most of his lymph nodes from his neck. He had a dissection there. His jaw was eaten away, and he lost most of his permanent teeth, and he can never eat solid food for the rest of his life. He has trouble speaking right, and food falls out of his mouth. He drools, water comes out of his mouth. And they maimed this child. And when his parents called to get his medical records so that they can give him to the doctor where they were at the time, the clinic said, no, you can't have the records. You come back and see us. So eventually he got back to seeing them. He was out of state at the time. He comes back. His mouth the doctors where he was think that he had cancer. They send him right to Chalk Hospital. It's Children's Hospital, Orange County. And they immediately admit him, and they do all kinds of procedures on him. They give him antibiotics to fight an antibiotic-resistant infection. And get this, he had his procedures done on July 28th, 2016 in the clinic. The management knew, the doctors knew as early as July 1st, maybe even earlier, that there was some type of outbreak in the office that was resistant to antibiotics. There was something going on. Okay. Now, no one is fessing up to the malpractice, to the negligence, to the fraud that was being committed. None of the dentists, oh, it's not my responsibility. I just work here. The corporate management is saying, well, I'm not really a part of the clinic. It was the water company. The water company saying, the Culligan Water Company that made the filtration system says, hey, we didn't warrant it for that purpose. No one uses a reverse osmosis drinking water system to make distilled water to be used in dental water lines, right? I mean, no one wants to take responsibility. So the dentists are pointing to the other dentists, and those dentists are pointing to the management. Management's pointing back to the dentists, and everybody's saying their insurance policies are limited and that they're not responsible. Well, guess what? After 8 years of fighting, in the Orange County Superior Court. Judge Glenda Saunders finally retires. We get Judge Lon Hurwitz, a really good guy. He sets Majid Odeh's case for trial. He's the most injured child, one of the most injured child. One of my clients, who's the most injured of my clients, I represent 83 of over 200 children who are injured at the clinic through their bad practices, through marking kids as uncontrollable, taking them out of the presence of their parents, strapping them in papoose boards, doing more pulpotomies, which are baby root canals, than are necessary, slapping stainless steel crowns on everything they can get their hands on, and being overseen by a non-dentist, inactive lawyer, Sam Gruenbaum, looking at those numbers every day. Is your production up? Is your production up? Is your production up? Who's doing the production? Who is billing the most? How can we make this flagging children's dental group profitable? And in doing so, all the focus was on production. None of the focus was on the cleanliness of the office. There was a doctor there, Dr. Diaz. He had, I believe it was a 5-second rule or a 10-second rule. I'd have to go back and look at his deposition and what people at the depositions to see what some of the other staff were saying about him. But apparently he had a 10-second rule. And if the instrument was on the ground for less than, I believe it was 5 or 10 seconds, that he could pick that instrument back up off the ground and use it on a child's exposed nerve tooth. So, tooth nerve, the nerve of his tooth, the pulpotomy. The pulp is like the covering of the nerve, right? It's like right there. And what happened is when they did the pulpotomy and they went into the pulp, usually there's some type of cavity, or maybe they didn't even need to go that deep and they did anyways. They put the water on there and then they put the cap on the tooth and then they sent the child home. And then that infection started to fester and fester and fester. And it ultimately ends up that the child gets an infection that's resistant to antibiotics because the type of bacteria that was in the water, usually in a municipal water supply, the bacteria is so few and far between that it can't really hurt anybody. But when it builds up in a reverse osmosis system that's not being attended to, because none of the dentists that work there are saying they're responsible for that. That's all on the main dental head honcho guy who owns the clinics. But the clinics are really being run by a non-dentist. That's all on them. And then they're saying, well, it's not all on us. It's all on the dentist. And then this is how you get to a point where nobody wants to pay. So there's a few children who haven't accepted the settlement. The dental clinic, the dentists are demanding that 100% of the children accept the settlement. If they don't accept the settlement, they're not going to pay any child, and we're going to go to trial. Well, if we have to go to trial, we have to tell the general public what is going on here, and that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm letting everybody know that that's what we're facing tonight. We're facing dentists, and we're facing corporate actors, corporations, advisory companies that don't want to take responsibility for maiming Majid Odeh, the 2-year-old boy who they strapped in a papoose board outside the presence of his parents, did 4-quadrant work on him, 10 pulpotomies and stainless steel crowns all in one sitting, injected him with a mycobacterium because they weren't even giving a shit about their water supply they're using on these young children, and then sending him on his way and letting that bacteria eat all the way through his jaw while they knew there was something going on in the clinic. They didn't notify everyone. Keep it quiet. Keep production. Keep going. Keep going. We don't know what's going on. Do this, do that, do that. Well, now tomorrow is our time to get the money, or we're going to have to go to trial. So I'm going to go through some videos and show my viewers, anybody out there who's watching. Yeah. Everyone's pointing fingers. Oh, you specialize in dental issues or general health issues? You know what? I don't specialize in medical malpractice, except for this case is a fraud case. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on with this clinic. You can watch the KCAL 9 News. This is local news I was on.
5 more kids are being admitted to the hospital, and parents say a dental group in Anaheim is to blame. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Paul Majid.
And I'm Pat Harvey. Today, 3 more families file lawsuits against the Children's Dental Group of Anaheim. Parents say the clinic gave their children bacterial infections by using dirty water. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Michelle Gili is live in Orange with that story. Michelle.
Pat, a 2-year-old is upstairs here at Children's Hospital. He was a patient at Children's Dental Group of Anaheim, and his attorney is telling me tonight that this little boy had several root canals when he was only 1.5 years old, and now at 2 years old, he has to have his jaw removed. Now, this little boy cannot eat. As a matter of fact, doctors here are flying in experts from around the world to help with this complicated case. And we met another little girl here at this hospital today.
They ruined her life because,
This is also my client, Yuretsi Ramirez.
I don't know when she's going to have teeth.
7 more children are hospitalized, patients of Children's Dental Group of Anaheim, where health officials say the clinic's contaminated water supply infected dozens and perhaps hundreds of kids. Yuretsi Ramirez is one of the latest to be admitted to Chalk Hospital, where 77 boys and girls have now been treated for a resistant bacteria. Doctors had to pull 9 of Yuretsi's adult teeth. The bacteria has spread to her lungs.
For right now, what I know that they told me is that she could fracture the side of her gums. If she fractures it just by eating something hard, then they're gonna have to put a titanium plate on her.
So yeah, they had to debride their jaws because of the infection. The infection was so hideous that the antibiotics couldn't remove it. So the doctors went in and removed their teeth and then were scraping away their jawbone. So Yuretsi Ramirez, this little girl's jaw is going to be thin for the rest of her life. She's got to be very careful. Now, my other client, Majid Odeh, doesn't have a lower jaw. They had to do bone grafting years later to graft in the jaw because there was basically no jaw. He had a titanium jaw. That's this little boy right here.
For the dental clinic where dozens of children got infected after routine visits. Some of those kids were hospitalized. It's a story we broke on CBS 2, and we've been leading the coverage ever since. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Michelle Gili is live in Orange with the latest fallout from the infections. Michelle?
Rick, today I met a little boy who is just 3, and he has been through so much. I'm told that doctors here at Children's Hospital will attempt, when this boy is 6 years old, to take a piece of his hip and make a jawbone. Now, lawyers say that the infection that this child got at the dental clinic has changed his life.
There's me.
The latest lawsuit against Children's Dental Group of Anaheim has just been filed on behalf of this 3-year-old boy, Majid Odeh, who had much of his jaw removed after being diagnosed with a severe bacterial infection.
Show me your teeth, man.
Doctors at Children's Hospital of Orange County put a titanium jaw in place of bone after Majid became sick after treatment at the dental clinic, getting 10 pulpotomies, or baby root canals, the lawsuit says, and 2 fillings in 1 day. The county closed the dental office late last year when the clinic's water system tested positive a second time for bacteria. According to officials, hundreds of kids may have been exposed. Majid's case is one of, if not the worst.
Is he going to spend the rest of his life eating soup and soft food and not testing the other things, and like a normal kid? We don't know.
The toddler is missing all but a few bottom teeth. Lymph nodes had to be removed. His mother and uncle say he spent a month in the hospital critically ill, and that the strong antibiotics he must get through this tube in his veins could affect his hearing. Alexander Napolin is the lawyer for several sick patients.
Certainly, from reviewing the records, this is the most catastrophic as in terms of how many surgeries and procedures he's had, and also in terms of the lifelong consequences.
It's going to be like nightmare for us. We're going to keep watching him all our life,
Patients' lawyers tell me that at least 100 lawsuits have or will be filed related to this clinic. We reached out to the CEO of Children's Dental Group, but haven't heard back. Live in Orange, I'm Michelle Gili. Back to you.
So yeah, this litigation is going on, and tomorrow there's a mandatory settlement conference. Here's the photos of the little boy in the surgery. I mean, whoops, sorry. Let's see. Windows isn't great with this, but you could actually see his jaw here if you look closely. Well, you don't have to look closely to see this. This is what happened to him because of the infection. This is what they did to the kid. I mean, here's a video of the boy. This is in the hospital. And these are all part of, the discovery. This is what they know they did. But they don't want to pay him. They don't want to pay the little boy. So, we're going to go to trial. We're going to go to trial probably. It's going to be in October 7th is the date of the trial. Here he is. These photos aren't very big. But yeah, the infection really got into him and really hurt this young boy. He's now 10. He's going to be 11. But as you can see, I mean, he's got a scar underneath his jaw. And it's like, what do you pay? What do you require them to pay because he can't eat solid food the rest of his life? What do you require? What do you think that the jury should award this young boy? Because they did this to him, put him in the hospital for a month, removed all his lymph nodes. Now he gets sick all the time. He gets sick all the time. Every few months, he's got to be on antibiotics because he can't fight infections because he doesn't have lymph nodes, and he can't eat solid food because he doesn't have a lower jaw and hardly any permanent teeth. He's only got a few permanent teeth. Okay. And they knew that the infection was in the office. They knew it was there when they did the work on the boy. There were kids who were coming in the month before. Hey, we had already treated this young kid. Now we're giving him antibiotics. And what's going on? There's emails going back and forth between the staff and the dentists. Oh, just keep treating. We'll find out what's going on. Don't notify anybody. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's more than neglect, in my opinion. It's battery. I mean, if you know that there's an infection and you do treatment on that child, knowing that something's going on in the office that you can't treat, I mean, I think the sky's the limit. But California law limits damages to $250,000. So the insurance policies aren't very big. The dentists don't have larger policies. In California, we limit the amount of money that you can get for medical malpractice or dental malpractice. And my partner from Texas is saying, hey, this is supposed to be the left coast, Alex. You're supposed to be like a progressive state. I was like, I know, I'm from California. We're progressives. We're supposed to be ahead of the times, right? But no, we give everybody medical treatment here. And in doing so, the doctors have lobbied the California government to limit the amount of exposure that they're exposed to, basically by limiting their liability to $250,000. It's $350,000 now, but back then when this occurred, the limit was $250,000. So the doctor said, hey, we can't afford to do business in this state. You got to keep our insurance premiums low. So you got to limit the amount of money that we'd have to pay out if we screw someone up. Trust me, California is a very, very litigious state, and maybe that's necessary to an extent. But there were non-dentists running the place. There was a guy in charge of the whole operation, overseeing all of the staff, overseeing the dentists, who was not a dentist. He had an advisory company, and he was basically calling all the shots. So that guy is personally potentially liable. He's going to be at the mandatory settlement conference tomorrow, and hopefully he pays a couple more $1 million to get this case settled, because we're not accepting, a few $100,000. That's just not going to happen. But hey, look, it's now going to be 7:00. I got to go. Thank you, Fish Collector. I really appreciate your patronage here on my Kick channel. I'm also streaming on YouTube and Twitch. I don't know what's going on those stations. I haven't even looked. Thank you. You have a good night too. I'll be back. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll go on if you're around on Kick tomorrow. I'll come on and I'll tell you what they did for the kid. And hopefully after a long day of mediation, then on Thursday, I have two court appearances in the morning. So who knows if I'll get on tomorrow. It might be Thursday night. But you take care of yourself, and I'm going to sign off. How do I do that? I just press this button. All right. Good